Hi, welcome to the Also Called podcast, where we're asking hard questions about our place in this hectic world.
Join us as we dig into the truth about who God is, possibly discovering that we are also called.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you think Mary is as an individual? Tell me what you learned about her.
Well, again, she's me. She self-isolates when she doesn't know how to deal with her emotions. She is wondering, she's hurt, she's maybe even angry. We don't really know because it doesn't say, but she's disappointed in Jesus. And then what do you do when he doesn't do what you think he should? And I think what's interesting about her is we'll see she allows him to put both herself and himself in the proper places. Mm-hmm. And like you said, not be the vending machine God of, I showed up because you called,
right?
Which he is always with us. He's Emmanuel, the God with us, but he knows something that we don't know. So,
yes. Yeah. So Mary's issue.
So we've already kind of talked through that, what her issue is, but Jesus knew where she was, both in location. He didn't ask, he asked it rhetorically of Martha, where's Mary? He knew where she was location-wise and in her emotions. She was upset. She was really upset. Mm-hmm. We don't know if she was just in grief or it was deeper, but we can use our historical imagination to conject that she was at least disappointed. She had called him to come and when Lazarus was sick, but most likely she was angry because he didn't arrive in time. But he met her where she was. He asks Martha to go call Mary to the tomb. Mary had a choice. She could either ignore him and remain in her hurt and pain, or she could respond.
Do you think that was a passive-aggressive thing with her not going out to greet Jesus when Martha went out?
I think if it was Fatini, absolutely it would be passive-aggressive. But I don't know that we can read that with Mary. I mean, she seems radical, like she's willing to put herself in these places and do these radical things, like later when we see her anoint him with oil. But so I don't know that it speaks to that as a pattern, but could be. Yeah. I know when I'm mad, I'm completely unreasonable. So.
Yeah. It was probably just more heartbreak and grief. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So tell us about what Jesus did for her.
So when she gets there, he didn't let her stay there. He called her to him, and he's done that for me too. I'll pout and pitch a fit and feel sorry for myself and have a pity party, and then he'll call. But he called her, and she got up and she went. And once there, she chose to voice that disappointment and that anger as she sank to his feet. In that moment, she could decide to either stay hurt and disappointed, and even disillusioned or even furious, or to state her true feelings. And depending on how you interpret her statement, it can either be accusatory or just, I'm hurt, you weren't there, where were you? Her first word, Lord, gives us a clue that she was hurt and in grief more than anything else. And this man that she had previously chosen to sit under as a student now chose to sit at his feet again, but this time in disappointment. And she bravely stated, and he was good with that. He was okay. So what does she do with her anger? She trusts. Her faith grows, and she's the only person later to anoint him as the king during the hardest week of his life.
Wow. And that's so beautiful to see that relationship through the ups and downs. Mm-hmm. To be able to witness it in someone else and not have to live it.
Somebody else's. Yeah. Again, wisdom versus experience.
Yes. So what did we learn about God and her issue?
That Jesus sympathized, but even more, he empathized. He wept. This is the shortest verse that everybody talks about. He wept. He fully understood the magnitude of her grief, the loss of her brother, and the further reaching consequences. Like we talked about, she was a single woman. I don't know if she had an insurance policy, which I didn't back then, if she had plan B for when her brother passed away. He was her provider, her coverer, her redeemer. So Jesus felt that too. And he had lost a beloved friend to death. And so he really felt it for the sisters. So he shows us it's okay to feel too, that he wept. He expressed his feelings, showing it's okay to hurt, okay to be angry. And he knew what loss was. He understood it wasn't hopeless because he knew the bigger picture that he was getting ready to call Lazarus forward. So I think one of the things that we can learn is she allowed she didn't let that suffering, that anger, that grief go to waste. She allowed it to change her. That pain and that hardship, that God will actively shape our character and develop us a deeper faith when we go through something hard and we do the scary thing and we trust him anyway. So we consider this situation with Mary, and then our suffering will become a testimony to help somebody else.
And this isn't so much about Mary, but just what we can learn about God. He did know what was going to happen. He did know that Lazarus was going to die. He knew he would arrive after Lazarus died, and he knew that he was going to be raising Lazarus. But he still was in that moment fully and grieved his friend's pain, the loss of his friend. He still felt those emotions and demonstrated those. And I think that's a beautiful picture for men today to recognize that emotions are God-given, and it's okay to sit there with them in that, to comfort the people in your life and just be in that moment with them. So I think that's a beautiful thing that we can take away from this passage as well. So tell us a little bit about Mary's journey of discipleship and what was she called to do?
Yeah, so if we go back into Luke 10, we see her hosting Jesus, and that theologians usually will say that it wasn't a singular event, that it most likely had happened, because you can see they were completely at home. The women kind of knew what to expect, so Mary knew to slide under and sit at Jesus' feet. Martha knew hospitality was expected, so she was doing her thing. So one of the things that we can really see about Mary is that she had ears to hear. She knew that women weren't publicly taught the Torah. We read in places like Joshua 8:35, Nehemiah 8:2-3, that women were included in services, but there were a lot of extra biblical laws, or the Talmud or rabbinic Judaic law, like the Babylonian Talmud, that women were not supposed to be reading the word, and it was very discouraged and almost an insult for women to read. So in defense of Mary's choice to study and learn, he openly related to her in a teacher-disciple relationship, and he admitted her to study under him. And he understood Mary. He knew that she must have had the mind that could handle something like that, and she must have been really smart. So he said, come on, come out of the kitchen. He knew she wasn't going to be content to do what Martha did. And then after this interaction with her, when he raised Lazarus from the dead, she continued to follow, learn, and help. And later she anointed, prepared him for death. I would make the argument that yes, she absolutely was a disciple of Jesus.
So is there anything that you really wish you could have gotten a little deeper into in your chapter?
I do. There's a huge debate whether Mary was also the sinful woman at Simon's who anointed his feet. And I would argue that she was not. I had been taught a lot of my life that she was the same woman, and a friend and I kind of dug in, and she's like, absolutely not, and did a lot of digging. And if you put the two side by side, and it would have taken an entire chapter just to unpack the side by side, so there wasn't room to it. I would love to show they weren't, and it was actually a sermon by Pope Gregory the Great in the 6th century that combined the two women, and that's kind of where the combination started happening. So if you really look at it, they were not the same women.
Gotcha. And this is a side note, different conversation, but how often does that happen with the things that we just assume is scriptural? You know, the things that we're taught are things that we just assume and take it for granted, that comes from someone else's interpretation and a message that they shared, and then that becomes the truth rather than the scripture being the truth.
Right.
So
I agree. But I mean, again, it's not a hill to me to die on. Where we went to church before, our pastor taught that there are some things that are closed-handed and open-handed.
Yes.
Like the closed-handed you hold on to, and it is non-negotiable, like salvation or different issues like that. Basically what's in the Apostles' Creed. But then everything else is open-handed. It's like, okay, it's interpretation, it's my observations, it's my experience. And that was really helpful to me to learn to not like this is not worth getting worked up about, and I'm not going to die on this hill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could talk about different denominations or things like that, but even within denominations, God is relational. The way we relate to Him, each individual has a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it does depend so much on that, and it's okay to have different opinions as long as Jesus is the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
The Trinity. He died on the cross for our sins,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing Him, and all those important
Yes.
things. Like you said, if it comes to salvation, the other stuff, you know what? I'll ask God when I get there.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so how do you see us today applying her story to us?
A couple of things. Surrender. She let Jesus reorient the situation, that she is human, he is God.
Mm-hmm.
But she surrendered first. She goes, okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. And she knew that God was big enough to handle her and her situation. And you can know that God is able to handle you and your situation. Be angry, be disappointed, be disillusioned, but don't stay there. Let it out and work it out with Him. He's a big guy. He can handle it. I think writing is powerful. I would encourage you, if there's something that you're going through, that year and a half that I went through this really crummy season in my life, I did a lot of writing. And psychology tells us that our emotions are felt in the brain and the body, but they aren't assigned language yet. And so emotions are housed on one side of our brain while our words live on the other side. And so journaling or writing about your feelings will assign those feelings words and pull it to the other side, which then allows you to start getting them out. And some things you can ask yourself is to get at the whys underneath. Why are you feeling what you're feeling? Why do I feel this way? What are the circumstances? What's my part in them? What's somebody else's part in it? And what can I do? Where can I go from here? There's just amazing journal prompts all over the internet that are been developed by therapists that can kind of help you on that journey. And then if you want to go even deeper than just writing or journaling about something, a really, really good friend of mine who wrote the Mary Magdalene chapter, Bonnie, she practices a thing called Emmanuel journaling. And what that is when you invite Jesus into a memory or a situation and you ask Him His perspective on it. What does He see? Is it different than you see it? Why is it different? What does He want to heal or give you a new perspective on? And then adding that radicalized my healing journey. This coupled, and we'll cover this in Fatini's chapter about the narratives that we build, really changed my perception of the truth of what had happened in this work situation, and then later what had happened to deeper things that led me to get to such a bad place. And then what Jesus says in John 8:32, then you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. And if anybody's watched Ted Lasso, Dr. Sharon Fieldstone says, but it'll piss you off first. So because we have to see the truth of our part in a situation in order to forgive ourselves for our piece of it. So it's just multi-layered, and Mary just really helped that journey. So there's just some practical things that you can do to work through if you're angry or you have something that you need to let go of.
Yeah. And what I love about journaling is not just the actual process of handwriting and being able to process through the emotions, but it's also a beautiful thing to be able to go back and look at some of your journal things later to say, thank you, God. It's record keeping, not just of the stuff that we're going through, but to see how God works through it. I have to have all the tools, and I use, it's like a cycle. Like this, it's more like a grievance journal, and I'm writing all the things that I'm struggling with. But then I'll go through times where I have the gratitude journal. Yes. And so it's just bullet points. Like, I'm so thankful for, these people in my life. I'm thankful for a job that I enjoy, those kind of things. But it's a record. It's record keeping. And it's good to be able to go back and also reframing sometimes, even with, the gratitude journal. If I'm really trying to focus on changing that mindset and living from a place of gratitude, it may be I'm thankful for my children who are willing to share, hard things with me, so sometimes it's about that reframing. You're really sharing something that you're struggling with right now, but just being able to reframe it to a place of gratitude. So I think that's another good option, to be able to look back and reflect on being able to see the things that God has done in our lives previously, because when we're in the middle of that struggle, you don't always remember the things that he's already done.
Well, and it just reminds me of the Israelites. He told them time after time after time, build stones of remembrance, build an altar, because we forget.
Yes.
And it's like when we're in the doldrums or we're in those hard places, we go back and go, but he's always been faithful and true.
Yes.
Always, even my stinky parts.
Yes.
He's always been faithful.
Yes. So give us a quick summary of your disciple and what we've learned.
So I think with Mary, we've learned that God can handle anything. He can handle you at your worst, and he loves you at your worst, and he loves you at your best. And so I think just the developing enough of a relationship with him, so when you go through the hard times and you are mad at him or disappointed or disillusioned with him, he can handle it, and he weeps with you. And I love what you said at the beginning of the episode, that it's kind of like this roller coaster journey. And if we hang on long enough and we're in relationship long enough, it starts to even out. And it's a relationship. That's really what it's all about. It's a relationship.
Yes.
Away from Mary.
Yeah, I love it, which, again, I think David is one of our favorites for both of us. I love David and his expressiveness. And also, I love the arts. And so, he's a Renaissance man. He's a manly man, killing bears and lions. But he writes songs and plays a harp. You know what I mean? Yeah. And dances in the street. I love it. So I just love who he is, and that he's a man after God's own heart. But he's very expressive with his emotions. And we see that time and time again. One of the hardest times in my life was when my husband was in a 3-month rehab, and I just started going. One of my favorite verses is Psalm 120, verse 1 and 2. I cried out to the Lord in my distress, and he answered me. The Lord saved me from lying lips and deceitful tongues. So that has been my prayer and my mantra for years. I've had to hang on to that. But during this time when my husband was in rehab, I was thinking, how many other times in Psalms does it say, I cried out to the Lord and he answered me? And so that's what I did. Talking about journaling, I had a journal and I started going through the Psalms, and I would just write down every time. And I don't know how many. I didn't go back and actually count them, but I just wrote it out. And sometimes it doesn't say those exact words. I cried out to the Lord in my distress and he answered me, although that specifically is in there many times. But sometimes the entire chapter is just that being conveyed. He's just crying out to God the entire chapter. Lord, I don't understand why we're here, but you're God and you're good. And you're good to me.
Yes.
So I just love that. So being able to see that lived out in a relationship with a disciple, of that closeness and the worship and the love that Mary had for Jesus, but then she was hurt and disappointed and angry, and being able to express that openly with him, the security of that relationship, to be able to express that, and then God being able to lovingly, to be in that moment with her and not try to, you shouldn't really feel that way because, I love that he was just able to be there with her in that. I see that, in my life too. I can scream and throw my fits, and it's like God's just there waiting and comforting me. And it's like, okay, now that you've got that out of your system, let's do something about it. So.
And I also love that she did it, because it's so popular, or I don't know if popular is the right word, but happening so much in our culture to ghost people when you are angry or upset, or you don't think that they're going to be receptive to what you have to hear. I'm sure that's exactly what went through her mind, going, is he even going to care? Because I shouldn't
Yeah.
feel this way. She didn't ghost him.
Yeah.
He didn't ghost her back.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're excited that you were part of the conversation. And we just invite you, if you have other perspectives or want to talk through anything, to join us in the comment section. All of our social media is linked in the show notes. So join the conversation.
Be curious
And keep seeking.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Also Called provides a space for honest conversations about the truth of who God is, who we are, and the relationships He wants us to have with Him, each other, the church, and ourselves. This episode was just the start of the conversation. Be sure to check the show notes for extra resources to go further. You can also find our social media sites to join the discussion. Don't miss our next chat by subscribing to our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Also Called is part of Bible and Pop Culture, a crowd-funded nonprofit that allows us to provide our content to start great conversations for free. You can help us keep doing this by checking out BibleandPopCulture.com or AlsoCalled.org's Donate Subscribe buttons with a one-time gift, supporting us monthly, or sharing us with someone who might like the conversation. Thank you for being a part, and see you next conversation.